They say desperation sharpens the eye. I'd been walking past dumpsters for 3 months with my daughter Maya, age 7, sleeping in shelters when we could get a bed, under overpasses when we couldn't. You learn to see what others miss. The quarter wedged in sidewalk cracks, the jacket someone tossed that still has one good zipper, the grocery store loading dock where day-old bread appears at 6 a.m. But a piano? A full upright piano, listing against a brick wall in an alley behind what used to be a music school. Keys yellowed and split, soundboard cracked, one leg propped on cinder blocks. That stopped me cold. Maya tugged my sleeve. "Daddy, it's broken." She was right. The thing was beyond repair, destined for the landfill. But something made me crouch beside it, run my fingers across the keys. Several were missing their ivory faces. One key stuck when I pressed it, and when I pried it up with my thumbnail, a folded square of paper fluttered out. Then another, and another. Someone had hidden notes inside the piano, dozens of them, each one dated, each one signed. A.R., studio tenant, 1994-2021. I read the first one by the light of my phone's dying battery. To whoever finds this, the storage unit key is taped under middle C. Rent paid through December. The password is Maya. Use it if you need it. My daughter's name. I looked at Maya, then back at the note, my hands shaking. Chapter 1. The weight of keys. The piano weighed what felt like 1,000 pounds of impossible. I stood in that alley at dawn, April wind cutting through my jacket, reading and rereading that note while Maya dozed against the brick wall, wrapped in both our coats. Storage unit. Rent paid through December. It was October. The note was dated 3 months ago. Middle C. I'd taken 2 years of lessons as a kid, back when we lived in the house with the blue shutters, back when Mom was still alive. I found the key and peeled back the tape. There it was, a brass unit key with a number stamped on the bow. 127. "Daddy?" Maya stirred, rubbing her eyes. "Are we going somewhere?" I pocketed the key. "Maybe, baby. Maybe we are." The storage facility was 8 blocks north, a squat orange building surrounded by chain link. The woman at the counter looked me up and down. Our clothes hadn't been washed in 5 days, but when I showed her the key and gave her the password, her expression softened. "AR prepaid this through December," she said. "You're authorized. Unit 127 is ground floor east wing." The unit was 10 by 10 feet. Inside, a twin mattress still in plastic, 3 boxes of canned goods, a space heater, a battery-powered lantern, a duffel bag of clean children's clothes, size 6 to 8, Maya's exact range, and on top of everything, another note. I taught piano to children for 27 years. Cancer took my voice, but not my savings. This is for one of you, someone who needs a pause. The piano outside was my first instrument. I couldn't save it, but I could save this. Use the month wisely. AR. I sank onto the concrete floor and wept. Maya touched my shoulder. "Is this ours now?" "For a little while," I managed. "For a little while it is." That night we slept on the mattress, the space heater humming, the lantern casting gold across walls that didn't drip, didn't shake, didn't threaten to collapse. I lay awake listening to Maya's breathing, steady, safe, warm, and thought about the woman who'd left this, a stranger who'd packed a future she'd never see, who'd written a child's name as a password because she knew, somehow, that children arrive with their fathers. By morning I'd made the decision. 2 months. I had 2 months of shelter, and if I worked every daylight hour, every contact, every odd job I could hustle, maybe I could string together first and last month's rent somewhere permanent. Maybe I could pull us out of this before the storage unit's grace ran out. But first I had to go back to the piano. Chapter 2. Listening to what's left. The alley looked different in full daylight. Narrower, dirtier, the piano more battered than I'd remembered, but I returned because of the notes. If there was one hidden inside middle C, maybe there were more. Maybe this stranger AR had left a map. I started with the white keys, prying each one up gently with a screwdriver I'd found in the storage unit's toolbox. Yes, there'd been a toolbox. This woman had thought of everything. The keys resisted, 40 years of humidity swelling the wood, but one by one they gave. Under D, nothing. Under E, a grocery receipt from 2015. Under F, a folded photograph of a young woman standing beside this same piano, her hands mid-gesture, teaching. Maya sat cross-legged on the asphalt beside me, arranging the keys I removed into rows. "It's like a puzzle," she said. "It is a puzzle, baby." Under G, I found another note, this one longer. If you're reading this, you're doing what I hoped, looking deeper. The piano was my mother's. She taught in the building behind you, 3rd floor, northeast corner. The landlord is Mr. Chen 555-3849. He owes me. Tell him Abigail sent you. The studio's been empty since June. No promises, but he's a decent man. Mention the piano, he'll understand. I stared at the brick building rising 4 stories behind the alley. Boarded windows on the 1st floor. Faded sign above the door. Riverside Music Academy. Private lessons, all ages. Is that where we're going next? Maya asked. I called the number from the storage unit that evening, my voice hoarse from disuse. A man answered on the 3rd ring, his accent thick Mandarin-inflected English. I stumbled through an explanation. The piano, the notes, the name Abigail Rodriguez. Silence on the other end. Then, you have her key? I have the storage key. She left notes inside the piano. Another silence. Come tomorrow 10 a.m. Bring the girl. I want to see who Abigail chose. The line went dead. That night, I couldn't sleep. Maya curled beside me, her hand gripping my shirt even in dreams, and I thought about faith, the kind that makes you leave notes for strangers, that prepares a storage unit like a lifeboat, that believes someone will come along who needs exactly what you can no longer use. By dawn, I'd extracted 16 more notes from the piano's keys. Some were practical, addresses of food banks, names of employers who paid cash, a warning about the shelter on Maple Street, bed bugs, avoid. Others were personal. I'm sorry I couldn't do more. And please take care of the instrument if you can, even if you can't fix it. And tucked under the lowest A, I hope you find what I found here, a reason to stay. At 9:45 a.m., I gripped Maya's hand and walked into Riverside Music Academy for the first time. Chapter 3. The 3rd floor knows your name. Mr. Chen was 70 if he was a day, his posture bent from decades of something, carpentry maybe, or violin making. He met us in the ground floor hallway, which smelled of old varnish and water damage, and studied Maya with eyes that had seen 1,000 students come and go. Abigail taught your daughter? He asked. No, sir. We never met her. She left instructions for someone like us. He nodded slowly, as if this made perfect sense. 3rd floor. Follow me. The stairwell was dark, the handrail loose, but Chen moved with the confidence of ownership. At the 3rd floor landing, he produced a ring of keys and unlocked a door marked Studio 3C. Light flooded in, eastern exposure, 2 tall windows overlooking the alley where the piano still sat. The room was maybe 15 by 20 feet. Hardwood floors, water-stained but solid. A kitchenette in one corner, sink, hot plate, dorm fridge, a closet, a bathroom the size of a phone booth. In the center of the room, a music stand and a folding chair. Abigail lived here 15 years, Chen said. Taught downstairs, lived upstairs. Paid rent until she couldn't anymore. Before she went to hospice, she asked me to hold the room. She said someone would come. Why would she think that? I asked. Because she was that someone once. He handed me a key. 1 month free. After that, $400. You keep it clean. You fix what breaks. You don't sublet. Abigail's rules. My rules now. Maya ran to the window. Daddy, I can see the piano. Chen smiled faintly. She could too. Every morning. She said it reminded her where she started. He turned to leave, then paused. There are more notes. She hid them in the room. She said you'd know where to look. The door closed behind him. If you're enjoying this journey so far, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Chapter 4. The Architecture of Second Chances. We moved in that afternoon, which is to say we carried our 2 garbage bags of belongings up 3 flights and stood in the middle of the room trying to comprehend our luck. Walls, windows, a door that locked. Maya tested the faucet and laughed when water actually came out, clear and cold. Can I take a bath, Daddy? You can take 10 baths, I said, and meant it. While she splashed in the miniature tub, I searched for Abigail's notes. The first one I found was taped inside the medicine cabinet behind the mirror. The landlord's number is in your phone now. Treat him with respect. He lost a daughter to an overdose in 2019. He sees her in every young tenant. You'll understand when you meet him. I thought about Chen's face when he'd looked at Maya, the softness there. The second note was under the fridge, held by magnetic strip. The hot plate works, but the left burner is temperamental. Jiggle the dial. The dorm fridge freezes everything if you set it above 3. Trial and error taught me that. The third note was inside the music stand's hollow tube. I was 32 when I moved in here. Divorced, broke, and 7 months sober. This room saved my life. It gave me a place to be still. I'm leaving it for you to do the same, don't waste it. I sat on the floor and read that one 3 times. 32. I was 34. Divorced wasn't quite right, but close. Maya's mom had left when she was 2, and I'd spent the intervening years working construction until the accident that crushed my knee and my employment prospects simultaneously. We'd been homeless since June, when the last of my savings evaporated and the landlord changed the locks. Maya emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel that had been folded in the closet, clean and waiting. "There's soap," she announced, delighted. "And shampoo." "I know, baby." That night I cooked a can of soup on the hot plate, jiggling the dial as instructed, and we ate sitting on the floor because we had no table, no chairs beyond the folding one. But the floor was warm, and the windows glowed with streetlight, and somewhere below us the piano sat in its alley keeping watch. "Are we going to stay here?" Maya asked. "If we can make the rent," I said. "I need to find work." "What kind of work?" I thought about the contacts in my phone, the ones who'd stopped answering when I couldn't show up reliably, when shelters and survival took precedence over shift schedules, the kind that pays $400 a month plus food, the kind I can do with a bad knee. She considered this. Ms. Abigail was a piano teacher. She was. "Can you teach piano?" I almost laughed. 2 years of childhood lessons, 30 years ago. But then I looked at the music stand, the window, the piano below. A wild thought took shape. "Maybe," I said slowly. "Maybe I can." Chapter 5. Keys that open, keys that close. The piano became my project. Every morning, after walking Maya to the public school 3 blocks west, enrolled her with Chen's help and Abigail's utility bills as proof of address, I returned to the alley with tools from the storage unit and determination I didn't know I still had. The internet is free at the library. I spent hours watching piano restoration videos, learning terminology I'd never needed. Action, dampers, hammers, strings. The upright in the alley was a 1960s Kimball, decent bones under decades of neglect. The soundboard crack was cosmetic. The sticky keys needed new bushings. 3 strings had snapped, but the pin block looked solid. I couldn't afford new strings or professional tools, but I could clean, I could tighten, I could shim the wobbly leg with precision-cut wood scraps. I could remove each key, sand it smooth, treat it with linseed oil salvaged from a construction site dumpster. People watched me work. The alley saw foot traffic, delivery drivers, smokers from the restaurant next door, other tenants from Riverside. Most ignored me. A few asked questions. "You trying to fix that thing?" A woman, maybe 50, cigarette dangling. "Trying. Good luck. Been there 2 years, nobody touched it." But on the 3rd day, a man in coveralls stopped and studied my progress. "You need strings," he said. "I got some. Old piano at my church, we scrapped it last month. You want the guts?" I looked up. "Seriously?" "Yeah, seriously. Nobody else wants them." He scribbled an address. "Come by Sunday afternoon. Back door." Sunday, I walked 40 minutes each way and came back with coiled piano wire, a bag of key bushings, and 2 hammers still mounted on their rail. The man, his name was Dennis, helped me load everything into a shopping cart I'd borrowed from the storage facility's cart corral. "Why you doing this?" he asked. I told him about Abigail, about the notes, about the room upstairs. He nodded. "She taught my niece. 10 years ago, maybe. Good woman. Wouldn't take payment when my sister lost her job." He clapped my shoulder. "You fix that piano, you're doing right by her." The work progressed slowly. My knee ached from kneeling on concrete. My hand split and bled from wire work. But every evening Maya came down and sat on the cinder block beside me, doing homework by the alley's security light, and I felt something shift inside my chest. Pride, maybe, or purpose. By the end of October, I'd replaced 18 key bushings and restrung the broken notes. The piano still wouldn't hold a tune, still looked like something rescued from a flood, but when I pressed middle C, it sang. Faint and tinny, but it sang. Maya clapped. "It works. It works," I agreed. That night I found another note, this one tucked behind the piano's bottom panel. "The instrument doesn't have to be perfect to teach. It just has to be honest. Let it be your CV. Let it show them you care about craft." I stared at those words until they blurred. Then I made a sign. "Piano lessons. Beginners welcome. $10 session. Inquire 3rd floor studio. 3C. I hung it on the alley lamppost and went upstairs to sleep. Chapter 6. The first wrong note. The first inquiry came at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. A knock so tentative I almost missed it. A woman stood in the hallway, her son beside her. maybe 9 years old, glasses, shy. "You're the piano teacher?" she asked, skeptical. "I'm learning to be," I said honestly. "I can teach basics, reading music, hand position, scales. If he outgrows me, I'll help you find someone better." She looked past me into the studio. The neatness of it, the made bed, Maya's homework stacked on the counter. "How much?" $10. Half hour. When? Whenever works. She studied me, this homeless man who'd been on her street corner 6 weeks ago asking for change. I saw her recognize me, saw her decide whether to walk away. "Thursday 4 p.m., she said. "We'll try once." They came Thursday. The boy's name was Liam. I taught him middle C, how to find it by feel, how to count. His mother watched from the doorway, protective, ready to intervene. But Liam liked the broken piano, liked the way its honest sound matched his beginner's fumbling. "Same time next week?" she asked when the half hour ended. "Yes, ma'am." 3 more families came by November. Word spread. The man fixing the alley piano, teaching kids, charging almost nothing. Some came out of charity. Others came because $10 was cheaper than the Academy's $40 rate. All of them came because Abigail's piano, still lopsided and scarred, proved I wasn't running a scam. You don't restore a ruined instrument for show. I made $80 the first week, $120 the second. By week 3, I had 8 students and a waiting list. Maya helped me print flyers at the library. Chen dropped by unannounced, listened to a lesson, nodded his approval. Then the call came. "This is Sharon Kwan, Child Protective Services. We received a report about a minor residing in a commercial building. I need to schedule a home visit." My stomach dropped. "Who reported us?" "I can't disclose that, but I do need to see your living situation. Are you available Friday at 2 p.m.? I thought about the studio. Clean? Yes. Warm? Yes. But legal? A music school building? Studios designed for teaching, not living. Chen had bent rules to let us stay. CPS might have other ideas. "Friday's fine," I said, my voice steady despite the panic rising in my throat. Maya came home from school and found me sitting on the floor staring at nothing. "What's wrong, Daddy?" "Someone called the city about us living here." Her face went pale. "Do we have to leave?" "I don't know yet." That night I found the last note from Abigail, wedged between the floorboards beneath the window. I'd been meaning to fix that gap, but now I was grateful I'd waited. "They'll question whether you belong." They questioned me too. A divorced woman teaching children, living in a studio, barely scraping by. Here's what I learned. Your home is made legitimate by what you do with it, not what it looks like on paper. Show them the student list. Show them the work. Show them you're building something, not hiding. That's the difference between squatting and belonging. AR, January 2021. If this restoration story has you hooked, hit like. It helps us bring more lost places back to life. Chapter 7. When Bureaucracy Meets Devotion. Sharon Kwan arrived at 2 p.m. Friday with a clipboard, a camera, and a face trained to show nothing. She photographed the studio, measured the square footage, tested the smoke detector, working, thank God, inspected the bathroom, clean, functional, tiny. Maya sat on the bed, silent and terrified. "This is zoned commercial," Kwan said. "You're aware?" "Yes, ma'am. The landlord gave us special permission. Ms. Rodriguez lived here for 15 years. Ms. Rodriguez had a variance granted in 2006. You do not." She made a note. "How long have you been homeless?" 4 months before we moved here. 5 months total. "And you're teaching piano? Out of this space?" "Yes, ma'am. Downstairs in the alley. 8 students currently." She looked up. "In the alley? There's a piano there. I've been restoring it." Her expression shifted slightly. Surprise, maybe, or curiosity. "Show me." We went down together. The afternoon was cold. November wind scattering leaves through the alley. But the piano stood patient as ever, its new strings catching light. 2 of my students had left drawings taped to its sides. Thank you notes. Stick figures at keyboards. Kwan walked around the instrument slowly, took photos, touched the keys, which responded with sound that was almost musical. "You did this?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am." "Why?" I showed her the note about using the piano as a CV, about letting the work speak. "A woman named Abigail Rodriguez left this here. She left a lot of things, instructions, supplies. She wanted someone to have a chance." Kwan was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I need to make some calls. I'll be in touch next week." She left without another word. Saturday morning, Chen knocked on the studio door. "The inspector called me," he said. She wants to know if I'll sponsor a residential variance for you. What did you tell her? I told her I'd think about it. He came inside, looked at the neat space, the piano lesson schedule taped to the wall, Maya reading in the corner. It costs me nothing to sponsor the paperwork, but it costs me reputation if you break rules, if complaints come, if this becomes a problem. I understand. Do you? He sat on the folding chair. Abigail asked me the same thing in 2006. She was 3 months sober, teaching 6 students, living out of her car between lessons. I said yes because I thought she'd fail, and failure would be temporary. She didn't fail. She stayed 15 years. She built something. I'm trying to build something too, I said. I can see that. The question is whether your something is stable or desperate. Desperate things collapse. They take neighbors with them. Maya looked up from her book. We won't collapse. Daddy's teaching 8 people now. Chen smiled faintly. 8 people, that's not much. It's more than 0, she said, fierce and 7 years old. He stood. I'll sponsor the variance, but you have conditions. Rent increases to $450 in January to cover the extra paperwork. No subletting, no guests overnight, no complaints about noise or traffic. 1 violation, you're out. Understood. And you fix that gap in the floorboards. It's a tripping hazard. After he left, I held Maya and cried into her hair. Not from relief, though relief was there, but from the weight of being seen, being trusted, being given a second chance by people who'd learned, like Abigail had, that second chances are the only thing that matters when you've run out of first ones. That evening I pulled up the loose floorboards to fix them properly. Beneath them I found one more note, the last one, written in handwriting shakier than the others. If you've read this far, you've stayed. You've done the work. Now comes the hard part. You have to let people help. The piano taught me that. I couldn't restore it alone. Cancer took my strength, but I could leave it as a flag for someone else. You're someone else. Someone will be someone else for you. Let them. That's how we survive. A.R. May 2021, Hospice Day 4. I read it twice, then carefully folded it and put it in my pocket. Abigail had died maybe 4 months before I found her piano. She'd written this note knowing she'd never see what happened next. That kind of faith in strangers and effort in the possibility of better felt like a weight and a gift at once. Monday morning, Sharon Kwan called. The variance is approved pending final inspection in 30 days. Keep the space clean, maintain enrollment, and we'll close the case. Thank you, I said, meaning it. Don't thank me. Thank your landlord, and thank whoever left you that piano. It's the only reason I'm signing off on this. Chapter 8. What the community remembers. Word spreads differently in neighborhoods like ours, not through social media or newsletters, but through windows and sidewalks, and the woman smoking outside the restaurant who tells the delivery man who tells the church secretary. By mid-November, people knew about the piano, about the lessons, about the dad and the girl in Studio 3C. Some folks left things. A card table appeared outside our door one morning, no note. A box of children's books. A bag of winter clothes in Maya's size. Cleaned and folded. I tried to track down donors to say thank you, but most stayed anonymous. Acts of kindness offered quietly, the way Abigail had offered hers. Then the newspaper called. Local interest piece, the reporter said. Her name was Kim. The piano restoration story. Can I interview you? I hesitated. Publicity felt dangerous. What if someone questioned our living situation again? What if students' parents decided we were too risky, too unstable? But Kim was persistent, and Chen, surprisingly, encouraged it. Let people know what you're doing, he said. Abigail never wanted attention, and it cost her. Students who needed her didn't know she existed. You don't have to make that mistake. The article ran the day before Thanksgiving. Second chances strike a chord. Homeless father restores alley piano, teaches music to neighborhood kids. The photo showed me and Maya beside the piano, her hands on the keys, both of us smiling. I braced for backlash. Instead, the phone rang. A music store owner offered to donate an electric keyboard so I could teach indoors during winter. A retired piano tuner volunteered to finish the Kimball's restoration, properly the way it deserves. 3 new families called asking about lessons. An elementary school music teacher reached out about bringing her class for a field trip, and Dennis, the man who'd given me the piano strings, showed up with a truck full of lumber. Heard you need a proper teaching space, he said. I do carpentry weekends. Let me build you something. By December, the alley piano was fully restored, tuned, regulated, playable. Dennis had constructed a simple roof overhang to protect it from rain, and someone else donated a weatherproof cover. It sat there like a monument, scarred but singing. Proof that broken things could be made whole with enough patience and enough hands. My student count hit 15. The waiting list stretched into January. I hired another teacher, a college student studying music education. Grateful for the experience and the 15-hour I could now afford to pay her. We taught in shifts, the upright taking students all afternoon. Maya thrived. Her teacher said she was reading 2 grades above level. She'd made friends. She laughed more. At night when I tucked her in, she'd say, "I'm glad we found Ms. Abigail's piano." "Me too, baby." But success brought pressure. The $450 rent was manageable now, but barely. Winter heating costs spiked. The electric keyboard needed repairs. Students sometimes canceled, and cancellations meant gaps in income. I lived in constant low-level fear that one bad month, one unexpected expense would topple everything we'd built. The fear crystallized 2 weeks before Christmas when Chen knocked on the door, his face grim. "We need to talk," he said. "The building's been sold." Chapter 9. The Rooms We Carry Forward. The new owner was a development company out of Chicago. They'd bought Riverside Music Academy and 3 adjacent properties with plans to gut renovate and convert to market-rate apartments. Timeline. Demolition starts March 1st. All tenants notified to vacate by February 28th. I sat on the floor after Chen left, the eviction notice in my hands, and felt the world tip sideways again. 3 months. We had 3 months. Maya found me there an hour later. "Daddy, we have to move again, baby." She didn't cry. She'd learned not to waste tears on things we couldn't control. Instead, she sat beside me and said, "Can we take the piano? It weighs 500 pounds. But can we?" I looked at her serious face and thought about Abigail, about leaving things behind not because you want to, but because you have to, about faith that what you build will matter even if you can't stay to see it. "We'll try," I said. December became a scramble. I contacted every landlord, every property manager, every lead I could find, looking for a place that would take us, that cost less than $600, that allowed a piano. Nothing materialized. January crawled past. My students knew we were being displaced, I'd told them honestly, and several families offered help. Couch space, storage, connections to people who might know someone, but nothing solid emerged. February arrived with cold that made the studio's old radiator hiss and groan. I taught 20 hours a week now, saved every dollar, and still came up short for first and last month rent anywhere that would house us and a piano. Then Dennis called. I got a lead. Friend of mine manages a church on Riverside Boulevard. They've got a basement space, used to be a daycare. Kitchen, bathroom, 2 rooms. Needs work. But the pastor says if you're willing to teach music to their after-school program twice a week, you can live there rent-free for 6 months while you get on your feet. I didn't believe him. Rent-free? They're a community church. They do this kind of thing. But you gotta meet the pastor first. Show you're serious. Pastor Williams was a woman in her 60s who'd run that church for 30 years. She walked me through the basement space. Dusty, dim, but structurally sound. The 2 rooms were small but private. The kitchen worked. There was storage for the piano. Tell me why you need this, she said. I told her about Abigail, about the notes, about the alley piano and the 15 students and Maya and the article and the eviction notice. I told her we'd been homeless once and I was terrified of being homeless again, of Maya losing the stability she'd just barely found. Pastor Williams listened without interrupting. Then she said, I knew Abigail. She volunteered here in the 90s, taught piano to kids whose families couldn't afford lessons. When she got sick, she asked me to watch for someone carrying her work forward. She didn't give me a name. She just said I'd know them when I saw them. My throat closed. I'm not qualified to carry anyone's work forward. Qualification isn't about credentials, she said. It's about showing up. You've shown up. She held out a key. Move in by March 1st. Teach our after-school program Tuesdays and Thursdays. Stay as long as you need. We moved the piano on February 27th. Dennis, 3 other volunteers, a rented truck, a dolly, and 6 hours of careful maneuvering. It fit in the church basement storage room, protected and ready. Studio 3C emptied piece by piece. The card table, the donated books, the electric keyboard. The bed where Maya had slept safe for 4 months. On our last night, I stood in the empty room and remembered Abigail's words. This room saved my life. It gave me a place to be still. The room had saved us too. Not forever. Nothing is forever. But long enough to catch our breath. To build something. To learn we weren't alone. Chen met us at the door on move-out day. You did good here, he said. Abigail would have been proud. Thank you for the chance. Thank yourself, I just opened the door. You're the one who walked through it. By June, I had 22 students and a waiting list at the church. The Kimball upright sat in the basement classroom, its scars visible, its voice strong. Maya turned 8. Pastor Williams offered us a permanent arrangement, reduced rent, continued teaching. We said yes. Sometimes I think about the notes Abigail left, the breadcrumbs that led us from an alley to a storage unit to a studio to a church basement, each place temporary, each one necessary. She'd known, maybe from her own journey, that survival isn't about permanence. It's about movement, about taking the next step and the next and trusting that somewhere ahead there's a door that opens, a stranger who sees you, a broken thing that sings when you give it attention. The piano taught me that. Not the music it makes, but the faith it requires. The belief that effort matters, that care compounds, that what you restore becomes in time what restores you. Subscribe for more true-to-life tales of rebuilding, memory, and hidden history. See you in the next story.